Hey, welcome back, everybody. Great to see you on this Tuesday. Got a major update for you on what is going to be a big-time winter storm from Texas through the Mid-South, even into the Carolinas and Mid-Atlantic between really Thursday and through the weekend, and still the chance of some impacts even into the Northeast. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, and if you haven't already subscribed, like the video, and hit that bell for the latest notifications, go ahead and do so. That'll make sure you're up to date with the latest model guidance, a breakdown of that guidance, and even past this storm through the rest of January, through the rest of the heart of winter, and then as we go on ahead towards spring severe season and eventually hurricane season, I'll keep you up to date year round. Alrighty, folks, with that said, let's go ahead and jump right on into it because a lot to discuss in today's video. Now, what you're currently looking at right now is satellite loop. This is the upper levels of the atmosphere, and this is our water vapor loop. This is a great tool to use when we're trying to find little pieces of energy kind of embedded in our jet stream, and sure enough, we have found one out here into Southern California. This is one of the big pieces of our upcoming winter storm. You can see it slowly kind of rotating down the west coast here and will eventually rotate towards the state of Texas, and behind it later on into tomorrow, another piece of energy will dive down out of Canada and kind of scoop up our southern piece, and that's where the question marks begin to arise. How effectively does it scoop it up? And how big does the energy get when they kind of combine together? And that's what we're trying to figure out. But I'll tell you, overnight, I think the models have come into a pretty good kind of scenario on what we're expecting out of the storm system, which is obviously great news for you folks, because I can finally kind of give you a little bit more of a nailed down answer on what I think it is looking like. All right, so with that said, let's also take a look at kind of current conditions out there. That was our energy map in our upper level water vapor loop, and you can even see that energy on radar. Look at this, a little bit of rain out here into Southern California. We've got some snow showers into Colorado, and plenty of lake effect northwest flow snow up the East Coast from portions of New England into New York State. The Tug Hill Plateau getting plenty of snow, even Pittsburgh, Cleveland seeing some snow showers as this very cold air mass behind our big storm system we just had continues to ooze southward, and that cold air running over these still relatively warm lakes is doing more than enough to produce some pretty efficient lake effect snow. All right, so here are our latest watches, warnings, and advisories, our current alerts map, as I call it. And right now, things have quieted down significantly compared to a couple of days ago when almost the entire country was under a ton of winter storm watches and warnings. But guess what? You can see the start of our next storm already with newly issued winter storm watches from Dallas-Fort Worth into southeastern Oklahoma and much of Arkansas, including the Little Rock area and even portions of extreme northern Louisiana not far from Shreveport under these winter storm watches. So this is the start of our next big storm. It's like we never really got a break the second we lost the watches and warnings from the last storm. We're already picking up with this next storm system. It's going to be a pretty big one, and it's going to be a very active week ahead as we track this thing on the models. So with that said, let's go ahead and do some tracking on the models, and let me give you a breakdown of some of that latest guidance. This is our American GFS model, and before this morning, this and the European were not really quite aligning with each other on what they expected to happen with this storm. Overnight, though, they came into better agreement, and I'm feeling a lot more confident about the forecast, and here's why. It all, like I said, comes back to this little piece of energy over California and the next piece of energy that comes over the United States. Now, the good news is this piece over California, we've now finally been able to sample with our weather balloons. All of the data is going into the models, and we now know much more about the storm system because of that, and I told you that. I said whenever this would come ashore and we were able to sample it, the model should come into better agreement, and that's basically exactly what happened. Now, there is still one kind of little piece out on kind of jeopardy here. The jury's still out, if you will. I guess it's a better analogy to use there. It's this piece right here. It'll begin to work into British Columbia by basically tomorrow morning. So we're still about 18 or so hours from this guy, 18 to 24 hours from getting data on this one, but by tomorrow afternoon, we'll then have the data on that piece, and any final kind of outliers in the model should begin to come into agreement. But this is the solution the models came into overnight, and it's kind of basically a lot closer to what the European was saying yesterday. Here comes our northern piece of energy, moves down, scoops up that southern piece, and notice how they just become one big piece of energy right around the evening and overnight of Thursday. The models agreed on that. What they didn't agree on was how effectively were they going to become one piece. The GFS kind of really put them together much quicker, spun it up really quickly, and we had a major storm riding up the coast on the GFS model. And now, this is the same model this morning. If I move this further ahead into time, notice how it looks now. It's a lot more strung out and messy, kind of like the European looked, which is not a bad thing for winter weather fans by any means. In fact, this could be very conducive on limiting some of the ice concerns we had and could bump up higher snowfall totals through portions of the Tennessee Valley and into the Carolinas and Mid-Atlantic. So if anything, for snow lovers, this is a good trend for you folks. And you can see on the GFS, it still kind of tries to spin this up the East Coast a little bit, but trending closer to that European solution from yesterday. And just to show you that European, you can see much better agreement here. Here comes that northern piece of energy diving down, scoops up our southern piece, and we get a much more strung out kind of mess of a storm system here on the model. You can see all of that energy getting thrown all the way back still into Baja California. That'll prevent this from ramping up into a huge storm, and you can see that on the European model. The storm does ramp up, but it's a little too late for our friends in the Northeast as it's kind of pulling off out to sea instead of really riding all the way up the coast. All right, so that's the latest from the models on the nitty gritty. What does this actually mean at the surface? Are you going to see snow? Are you going to see ice, rain, or absolutely nothing? Well, let's kind of break it down region by region. I think we're close enough now to the storm that we can go ahead and do that. And we'll start it. This is Wednesday morning, so only a day or so from now. We'll move it throughout the day. Wednesday, things remain calm. You see some snow beginning to break out over portions of West Texas there. And this is the American model, by the way, I will add. And then the storm begins to ramp up a little bit more. This is Thursday morning, so 2 days from now. It's still relatively light precipitation. We're just getting rounds of wintry weather through North Texas, the Red River Valley of Oklahoma, in those areas that we have winter storm watches posted. But to the south of there, from Austin to Houston, it's an all rain event on the American model. Even kind of starts as rain in Dallas. Then the heavier precipitation moves in Thursday afternoon, pictured below, and into Thursday evening. And we get a pretty nice shield of snow to break out north of DFW. Really the heart of it right here over the Red River between Oklahoma and Texas, due north of Dallas-Fort Worth. And then as we go overnight Thursday, this spreads into Arkansas, and this is when some of the ice becomes a concern. That warm nose, here's the center of our low pressure, all that warm advection pushing northward at the lower levels and the mid levels. It's a lot easier for it to go through the mid levels because that cold air is trapped at the surface. So the warm air can go right over it a lot easier than through it. And that's why we run into icing concerns through southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana, including potentially places like Shreveport. Could even see this wintry mix continue all the way back into Dallas-Fort Worth. I would not be surprised to see that at all as we get a little bit closer and into mesoscale range. And then the storm cranks up and we've got a full-blown snowstorm in Little Rock, much of Oklahoma, at least the eastern half of the state. We've got snow into northern Texas. This is overnight, about midnight Thursday into Friday. And then we're waking up Friday morning and still a full-blown winter storm from Little Rock. We've got mainly rain in Louisiana, back in snow in Dallas, Tulsa, much of southeastern Oklahoma. We've got snow in northern Mississippi, snow in Memphis. And it's just kind of a snow globe throughout the day Friday as the storm continues to push east and then dies out a little bit going into, I say dies out, really just moves out is probably a better word to use there, overnight Friday. And this is Saturday morning, all clear, and we're done with whatever winter mischief may have worked through the day or two before. All right, that is the model showing the precipitation. Now, what about snowfall totals? This is something I'm sure you care about, and I want you to know about if I have the data. And this is the latest data that we have on that. This is the GFS model's depiction on how much snow it thinks is going to fall. And again, this is an operational run, so take it with a grain of salt. But you see the bullseye here from Little Rock into south eastern Oklahoma, and then north of Dallas-Fort Worth. Right in here is kind of Dallas-Fort Worth, so the heaviest axis of snow to the north of there with half a foot to a foot. And I do think that's a fair bet to place that somebody will get half a foot to a foot of snow in here. I favor areas right here through southeastern Oklahoma and over towards the Little Rock area, but not all the models agree with that solution. Heck, you can even see northern Mississippi and Memphis right around half a foot of snow on the GFS model. What about the European? What does it show? Well, it shifts it south a little bit. It has more snow in Dallas-Fort Worth. Same snow totals as the GFS, so that's good that we're agreeing on the totals, just the location's a little bit further south on the European. So that'll be a big question to ask. How does this shift over the coming days before we get to the storm? Does it go a little bit further north like the GFS says, or a little bit further south like maybe our European model is suggesting? And I'll even show you a couple other models, the icon here below and the UK model. So you'll notice definitely still some stuff to figure out here, but I would definitely run with either this GFS solution or the European solution. I like the totals they're showing. And I think it's just a matter of placement of those totals with that heavy band of snow setting up somewhere from Little Rock to Dallas and kind of points in between. All right, these are the ensembles, so kind of same area. Just want to give you another look at it. These are the GFS ensembles. Point the bullseye right over Little Rock. Very possible. Again, I do think this agrees with the operational run pretty good with southeastern Oklahoma and into Arkansas seeing the heaviest totals. Same story back into the Red River, right along the border between Oklahoma and Texas. What about the European ensembles? Same thing as its operational run, a little bit further south with that heavy axis of snow just south of Little Rock and just north of Dallas, kind of really into the Texarkana area, seeing some big snow on that model. So definitely we'll need a little bit more time to get the exact details and all of that, but pretty good agreement overnight that we're going to get a big storm out this way. Ice will also be a concern. This is the latest blend of models. I don't think this will be a blockbuster ice storm. I'm not seeing half an inch to an inch of ice, but I definitely think a tenth of an inch to a quarter of an inch of ice could be a concern here through central Texas and up through northern Louisiana and maybe even extreme southern Arkansas. And you'll even see that ice signal trying to get on towards Mississippi and Alabama by the time we get Friday into Saturday. So gonna have an ice concern here as well, but I think not as a blockbuster of an ice storm as maybe we've seen in previous years out this way. All right, let's take a look at the models now and push it east a little bit. What about the Tennessee River Valley, the Ohio Valley, and the Mid-Atlantic, the Mid-South, and the Carolinas? Another place we have a lot of people watching from that are going to want to know what the overnight model said. Well, like I said, we trended towards the European, so that is good news if you don't want a lot of ice in the Carolinas. That's going to lead to a solution like the one I'm about to show you. This is our European model. Starting Friday morning, and again, time right above my head there in Eastern Standard Time, you can see that big snow right over Arkansas, portions of Memphis, northern Mississippi, Alabama. Basically, same thing I just showed you on the snowfall map. Now we'll move it further ahead into Friday afternoon. This is about 10 a.m., so early Friday morning. And then we get to 1 p.m. We've got snow from points north from Birmingham into Atlanta, points north through kind of northern Mississippi, much of Tennessee, getting a nice snowy scene out of this, and snow beginning into the western Carolinas, including much of the upstate, even pretty far south there, south of I-85, Greenville, Abbeville County, over towards Lawrence, starting as snow on this model run of the GFS. Or the European rather, excuse me. And we keep it going and just notice the track is pretty beautiful here for a good snow in the south. It's right along the Gulf Coast, but more importantly, the storm is not strengthening a lot because those upper level ingredients are staying kind of strung out a little bit. The model is depicting a storm that isn't gaining much steam, which if you're a big snow lover, you're thinking, well, I want a storm to get strong. Not quite. The problem with that would be is it would fling all that warm air advection northward as you would kind of increase the dynamics here, and that would ruin what is this nice shield of snow showing up on the model now, and we would start to get ice mixing in here. So this is about as good as of a scenario as you can get from the European model with that snow through much of Tennessee, the upstate of South Carolina, heck, even Columbia, South Carolina gets close to it. Those northern suburbs, Irmo, Chapin, seeing some nice snow out of this model run. We got snow in Charlotte, Raleigh, even some snowflakes flying in Fayetteville. This is by 10 p.m. Friday, and it's just a nice, beautiful shield of snow from Tennessee through North Carolina, northern Georgia, South Carolina, both of Virginia's seeing some light snow out of this. And then the storm just keeps on keeping on. And I think right here, this is when somebody could get heavier snowfall totals with a track like this. This is early Saturday morning. What's going to happen is we've got already instability along the coast here. We call this baroclinic instability. Basically, you've got these cold temperatures over here, and then you've got the warm ocean temperatures, and that just wants to let the storm strengthen, basically to simplify it for you. So I do think the storm will begin to strengthen as it pulls off the coast, and that could bring a band of heavier snow potentially somewhere in northern North Carolina, southeastern Virginia with a solution like this. And I think this is a solution we're trending towards in the models. So you can kind of see that storm beginning to strengthen. Too little, too late for the Northeast as the storm pulls out to sea. And it's mainly just some flurries there through New Jersey, New York City, but no major nor'easter like some of the models have been showing. What about the GFS? That's just the European. I will show you the GFS as well. Same story starting Friday morning, heavy snow in basically all the same places. We'll move it ahead into time. We've got heavy snow by Friday afternoon, or at least moderate snow probably. We'll say through upstate South Carolina. We've got snow in Columbia, Florence even. We've got flakes trying to make it to the coast, not quite getting there. So just inland up towards Conway, Marion, South Carolina, areas like that through the PD, even up towards Lumberton, trying to start with a couple of flakes. And then the GFS is a little bit stronger, a little bit further north. And because of that, what was once beautiful snow in the Carolinas changes over to a bit of an icy mess into the northern Midlands, even up into the Charlotte area, trying to hold on to snow in the Greenville-Spartanburg area, but that ice coming in quickly. Otherwise than that, though, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, even portions of southern Ohio there, all snow on this model run. I think you folks are locked into all snow. I wouldn't expect ice up here. The ice concerns are going to be down here towards the south from, we'll say, Charlotte, Fayetteville, all the way back down into the deep south through Louisiana and Texas. So this is, again, like I said, the GFS. This is the evening of Friday. We continue, and that's that rain, ice, kind of snowy mess line pushes northbound on the GFS. The reason we've got one, like I said, a stronger low pressure, but also just further north, the low is almost over Macon, Georgia, and that pushes our warm advection all the way up well into North Carolina. We're changing over to rain basically throughout all of South Carolina. Changing to rain in Charlotte, Raleigh. Now, this might be overdoing it a little bit. I think we would probably hold on to more of an icy mix, maybe freezing rain, sleet along the I-85 corridor. I think we're going to have pretty good cold air already locked into place. So it's going to take a lot to get rid of that at the surface, but either way, the snow would let up and it would change to some other form of frozen precipitation, still holding on to snow into Virginia and West Virginia and even the mountains of North Carolina on this run of the GFS. And then same story, it tries to pull up the coast like it has been doing, but the kinematics are not quite there, or the dynamics, I guess I should say, in the upper levels. And we do get a big snowstorm, just not as big. It's more of a moderate event through the Delmarva, the DMV, southern Jersey, Philly. And then you see that big snow try to ride up the coast and just doesn't quite do it. So still not a terrible model run on the GFS, but the problem is it is trended towards the European, which is a lot less amplified. And because of that, this is what we get. This is the snowfall map from the European model. These are not ensembles. These are pure operational runs. And I'll be honest, folks, I think this map is going to play out pretty good here. I'm liking the way this looks. Big snow back into portions of Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas. Like I said, that could shift north, that could shift south. But eastbound, I think this is a pretty good bet. A nice moderate southern snow from Nashville, Huntsville, Rome, Georgia, into I-85 north and upstate South Carolina. Potentially 3 to 5 inches through the Tennessee Valley, and a good old-fashioned 2 to 4 inch event into the I-85 corridor from, we'll say, Athens, Georgia, up through GSP, even into Charlotte, into Raleigh and the Triad, and even some nice snow up into the mountains of West Virginia. Look at this, a good little snowstorm there, a nice little snowstorm up through Ohio, even into northern Kentucky. Not nearly as bad as what you just had, but a little insult to injury, I guess, if you're not a snow fan. That's a European solution. What about the GFS solution? You'll notice it's pretty different. If I go back, here's the European, here's the GFS, a lot more amped and further north. So you get even bigger snow totals into Tennessee, but you kind of miss out here into Charlotte, Raleigh, and the Triad area in Columbia gets a lot less snow. I think the European's a little bit closer, though. I think it's going to be closer to right. I'll show you some of the other totals. This is the ICOM. This is dreams come true if the ICOM were to be right here through Tennessee. The Western Carolinas, you see even half a foot to a foot into the I-85 corridor. I think that's a bit much. I think to get totals like this, you're going to get too much warm air advection. So I think the Icon's kind of out to lunch right now. I think it's either going to be, kind of like we said in Texas, it's either going to be this, where you get a nice moderate snow, or you get something like this, where the ice kind of ruins it for some of us, but still a big winter storm. The Canadian, also I think an okay solution. It's a little bit higher, actually a good bit higher on snowfall totals into the Tennessee Valley, but about right into the Carolinas. A nice little snowstorm, I-85 north from Charlotte, down into Greenville, Spartanburg, Pickens, Oconee County, and a good little snowstorm for the mountains. And I don't think I showed you the UK model. Here's the UK model. So you get the idea. They're all kind of in the ballpark. If I had to pick one, though, I think the European's probably the closest right now to reality. This map makes sense to me. We'll see how it changes, and I will show you the ensembles. These are the European ensembles, and doing a pretty good job here of, I guess, kind of showing the right thing. If we go back, here's the European model. Here's the ensembles. You can see that swath from Arkansas through northern Mississippi, Alabama, I-85 north through the Carolinas, and back into Tennessee of a good little snowstorm. You're seeing this big signal up here into the Ohio Valley. I think this, okay, yeah, this is snow depth map. So all this that you see up here, this is what already fell. So that's what snow will still be on the ground, is what the European is saying by Sunday or overnight Saturday into Sunday. But all this down here is snowfall to come. In fact, I guess I don't have the other map, but yeah, so that's why you see that snow signal up there to the north. I even confused myself there for a second. GFS ensembles, a little bit different, but you get the idea about right down here with a good little swath of snow and a lot closer to the operational European run. So that's why I'm leaning to that direction. I think this will be a pretty good little 3 to 5 inch event right through the heart of the Deep South. Including the I-85 corridor, Greenville, Spartanburg, up to Charlotte. Maybe lesser totals here, maybe 2 to 4 here. And then more 3 to 5 in here, but still some time to iron out the details. Again, we're going to get more model runs. The storm really won't even get here till Friday morning. Today's Tuesday, so that gives us about 2 to 3 days to get the final data in and give you that information. Already showed you this. I don't know why I pulled it up twice. Ice will be a small concern. Did want to show you this. Not a huge signal for ice, but you do get the idea here. The idea here. Not a big signal, but I do think 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, which is enough to cause big travel problems. Not as much power outages, especially with a weaker storm system like the European shows. We'd get less wind with this storm, which, would lower the power outage risk. But definitely a signal for ice. We'll watch it. We'll see how that plays out. A more amplified solution like the GFS has been showing would have more ice. A less amplified solution like the European has been showing would have less ice and more snow. So definitely something we will be watching there. Mid-Atlantic, I did want to move this map north just a little bit. This is the same thing that I already showed you. Just wanted to give you the idea, though, that the European ensembles are not buying any of this northeast snowstorm. They're just not. You can see that pretty well here on the model. Again, this is snow depth, so this is what the European thinks will already be on the ground from the storm we just had. So that's what you're seeing there through the Ohio Valley. This would be Saturday night, and then adds a good couple inches here through Virginia and I-85 north into the Carolinas. So not a blockbuster storm, nothing that we haven't seen before, but considering how long it's been since snow in the Carolinas, definitely a nice little look there. The GFS ensembles, and I know it's kind of messing itself up a little bit here, but still showing some solutions with that big nor'easter. Will it happen? We'll see. I'm trending a lot closer to the European solution, though, that points to that being kind of out to lunch. Now, I've kind of already talked about this a little bit before, but let's talk about how could this forecast absolutely blow up for the Carolinas. I just showed you that nice little area of 2 to 4 inches of snow. How could that not happen? And even same thing for the Tennessee Valley. Well, this is how. This is the GFS ensemble members and where they project low pressure will be. You see this kind of chunk on the northern side? How we've got some members that take a track more like this. On the model, this would be Friday night. This would be Saturday morning. See that kind of northern end? If anything like that happens, that's really going to push that snow and ice line much further north, and we're going to get less of a big storm in the south, or a moderate storm, whatever you consider big or moderate, I guess, is up to your interpretation. And then on the GFS ensembles, you'll still see a lot of members with this big blown up area near the coast of the Northeast. That comes from those members that really pull it up further north in the southeast. That's still an option on the table, just the odds have gone down. I had that at about 30% chance yesterday. I think now it's closer to about 20% chance of that happening. And you can see only about half the GFS solutions even show that. And then if I pull it to the European solutions, just to kind of give you an even better idea here, here's the European solutions showing that, if I can get us to the right time, even less. A couple get close, but most of them out to sea, and I think they're probably onto something. Generally, you don't bet against the European ensembles. That's meteorology forecasting 101. All right, final map I will show you. These are temperatures, and obviously it's going to be cold here. This is Friday morning, so we've got the winter storm ongoing at this point. It'll be chilly, but after the storm, you'll notice the temperatures stay cold through here. We even get another little shot of some polar and Arctic air into early next week. So whatever ice or snow there is, it's not going to melt overnight, I don't think. It might take a couple of days. Highs should still get above freezing for most of us into the deep south, but the mid-south up through kind of Tennessee and into Kentucky, we're going to stay well below average in the temperature department from the snowpack already there and that cold air mass holding on. So just do be aware, whatever impacts come this weekend could hold on into next week and could lead to closures or delays or any of that fun stuff. As we know in the south, it doesn't take much. So we'll definitely keep you updated on those as well. Alrighty, folks, that's all I got for you on this Tuesday morning. Come back for another update this afternoon and evening. But until then, stay safe, stay warm, and I'll see you all then.